is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is Kyle Smith, Arizona drummer, and we are here with Behind the Kit Season 2, Episode 6. And we are joined by none other than Mr. Haze Amaze. Now, you may know him from playing with Fantasia or Leela James, or most notoriously with Nas, one of the biggest hip-hop and rap artists in the world. But also, Haze Amaze has a huge YouTube platform where he shows behind-the-scenes content, drum lessons, sound check advice, how to be a pro, and again, he does it all with that big, infectious smile of his. But in this conversation, we talk about what it takes to be a pro, how to get the gig, how to keep a gig, how to audition, be prepared. Also, the values he holds near and dear to his heart, and what his North Star is as he navigates this industry. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. And so with that being said, I will shut up and we'll jump into it. But please join me in welcoming Mr. Haze Amaze. All right, well, hey everybody, welcome to Behind the Kit. I am so excited because all of you know my next guest, Mr. Haze Amaze. Welcome to the channel.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on?
Thank you so much. Now, we were joking about this between our two schedules. Getting us to sit down and have this interview has been a challenge, but we're here and we're ready and we're excited.
Yes, sir. It's been a challenge for sure. Many challenges.
But I'll say this, anybody who's been on YouTube, anybody who, has focused on drummers that are out there that are taking over the internet, that have incredible feel, groove, and personalities, you've got to be up on the top of that list as one of the drummers who's out there really just making incredible content with the new series you've been putting out on kind of education and lessons, as well as, the behind the scenes stuff of you tuning things during sound check, or, some of the grooves that you've kind of put out on the internet. If anybody is on YouTube, they know who you are. And so I'm just excited that we get to share some of your knowledge and guidance with the folks who are listening from home.
Yes, sir. And I definitely appreciate that. I'm excited. I mean, as you know, I'm always excited to share any information and be able to, spread light anywhere that I can. So I appreciate you for having me on to this podcast and, just being able to share and spread good vibes everywhere.
Hell yeah. So speaking of that, let's rewind back though to the very start. So this is the same question we start with everybody, but what first kind of drew you to drums, to the instrument? And when did you realize, like, okay, this is going to be my career. I want to do this for a living.
So the first thing that drew me to liking drums was my cousin. Actually, when I was younger, I was singing in the choir at church, and my cousin was the drummer. And I distinctly remember we were doing was the John P. Key song "Rain on Us," and they would give, of course, the drummer has a drum solo in that song, and my cousin, he would go to like this floor tom hi-hat groove, kind of like a Georgia the Jungle kind of groove, but with an open hi-hat. And every time he did it, like, everybody in the choir and everybody in the church would just, start dancing to it because it was groovy. You know what I mean? So just growing up, being able to hear him more than watch him, because the musician pit was behind the choir. So it's not like I was turning around also, singing as well. But just being able to more so hear him, and then when I was able to watch him play, that's what really, really like drew me to drums. But it's in me, I come from a family of musicians and singers as well. Some of y'all may argue that singers are musicians, and I'm on either side of it. It doesn't make much of a difference to me. But yeah, man, come from a family of musicians, and it's always music has always been in my blood, rhythm and everything like that. So when I got old enough to play, I would play every now and again at my home church. But my uncle needed me. He needed a drummer at his New Year's service one year. This is when I was 15, and my cousin, his daughter, asked if I could play, but I wasn't driving or anything, so I was like, I could play, but y'all gonna have to come pick me up or whatever. They were like, cool. So that was from that New Year's service. I became the drummer at their church for years after that, and up until I was 18. I think I started driving when I was 18. They were picking me up and dropping me off home each Sunday. And just those kind of things, man, it really taught me, like, if you're in need of something or if you want something, like, you got to do what you got to do to get it. So by my cousins, coming to pick me up for the services and things like that, like, I was extremely grateful and still am extremely grateful, because that's a church that I really feel like I matured and grew up mentally in. So yeah, man. But yeah, that's my roots. Drumming back when I was a kid was more so a hobby and something to do when I got home. If I didn't have football practice, because I wanted to be in the NFL. That was my biggest dream. But when I got to high school, I had to choose between the two. And music was the thing, and has been the thing ever since. I think I feel like there was a part two of your question that I forgot.
You're fine. Part two was just taking that to the next level of, like, hey, this is when it clicked for me. Like, this is what I want to do for a living. I want to play drums. This is my career, and I'm going to stop at nothing to make it happen.
Yeah, high school. I had to make that decision between doing sports or doing music, but my ninth grade year is when mentally I was like, okay, this is where I'm going with it. Like, things totally flipped. Like, I still love watching the NFL. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do. But as far as the actual career and what I want to physically do, music was definitely that. So around the ninth grade, high school is where things flipped for me. And then when I graduated high school, that's when I had to, of course, apply, being serious about music and make it a career. So shortly after high school, I was able to join a local band, and from the local band, got different opportunities and everything like that. After after being with the local band and stuff like that. So yeah.
So I have to ask, you've been Nas's drummer now for, God, quite a while. How did that come about? Like, what was that audition process like? How did you guys get connected together? And tell us more about that.
Yeah, so back in 2022, I was at a festival in California, and the tour manager and lighting director, the lighting director was working for someone else that day. But the tour manager was working with the artist that I was with at the festival, and they both had a common friend. And I don't remember if she was actually supposed to be tour managing Nas that day, or if it just so happened that she was there and she was his tour manager as well. So I don't remember how it went, but anyways, the two guys, Flav and Keith, shout out to y'all. They believed in me. You know what I mean? I've known Keith for a very, very long time, because he used to work with the first artist that I actually started traveling with, artist by the name of Raheem Devon. Keith was the lighting director for him for a very long time. So Keith knows me. He knows my cousin, because my cousin was the MD, and he knows my brother, because my brother was the guitar player. So he's known us for a very long time. But Flav, who was tour managing us that day, they both were like, hey, I don't know when you're leaving, but I want you to stick around. I want to introduce you to this person. Originally it was going to be, what was it going to be? Originally, it was going to be because shout out to Darius Willie. Darius Willie, he's the drummer for DJ D Nice and 50 Cent and a lot of other acts. So he was doing D Nice at the time, but I believe 50 Cent was about to go on tour. So he was going to need a fill-in for the D Nice gig. So when I met the tour manager, that was the original opportunity that was presented. Was like, hey, Darius is going on tour and D Nice is going to need a drummer, so we want to introduce you to her, and just see what comes of it. So I met her, and she asked me a few questions and stuff like that, because the previous drummer, he was really a singer. So he's really a singer, and he knows how to play drums as well. So he was doing the gig, but he was singing as well as playing the drums. So she, one of the questions she asked, she was like, "Do you know how to sing?" I was like, "Yeah, I know how to sing." I wasn't like, "Yeah, I'm the best," but I was like, "Yeah, I know how to sing." You know what I mean? And in these moments, teaching moment for anyone who's watching, be confident in yourself. I could have said, "Oh, not really," or anything like that. But I'm like, "Yes, I know how to sing." Be firm with it. Don't hesitate with your answers, because hesitation sometimes makes people uneasy. So if you're giving answers and you're going to be confident in it, make sure it's the truth. Make sure you can back up what you say, because she could have easily said, "Okay, sing something for me right now." And if I was lying, then I would have, just been like, but you know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. Teaching moment over. But yeah, man, I was confident in the answers that I gave. She's asking, how to sing, can you play jazz and things like that? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So she's like, all right, cool. Send me your resume and, a couple videos or whatever like that, and I'll check you out. So I sent it to her. I didn't hear anything back. I didn't hear anything. I think the festival was in March, maybe. And it wasn't until May. Like, she didn't say, "Okay, got it." She didn't like the message or anything like that. So, I didn't know if she got it or not, but I told myself, I said, she asked for this and you gave her, you gave her your best pretty much. So I was comfortable with what I put out, and what I sent and everything like that. But May had come around and Nas was going on their tour in Europe. So she had called, and I was actually at my drum studio practicing music for a gig in Aruba that I had that next weekend. And she called. She said, "Hey, Nas is going on the tour next Wednesday." My gig was going to be on Friday in Aruba. She called and asked, could I do the tour that was going to start on that Wednesday, that next Wednesday. And this was a Thursday that I got the call. So it's like, okay, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a week before the tour. You know what I mean? So was it? I'm trying to figure out, because I know I had church rehearsal that night, and we used to do church rehearsals on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I don't remember if it was a Tuesday or if it was a Thursday, but I'm pretty sure it was a Thursday. Anyways, anyways, at first I said no, because I had prior obligations. I had a gig that next week, and I had, a couple wigs like the week. I said wigs, a couple gigs the weeks after that, and then I talked to she's my wife now, Rachel, babe, I love you. She's right upstairs chilling. But she was my fiance at the moment, and it was just like, I talked to her, and she was like, "What did you say?" I said, "I told her no." She was like, "Are you crazy?" And I was like, "I mean, I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to keep a good reputation and, stay true to what I have and things like that." And she's like, "Call her back and tell her you can do it." But at that moment, because in my mind, I was like, "Dang, I should have told her I could do it." But as soon as I got off the phone with my wife, I called my friend Alton, and I said, "Hey, are you busy this day, this day, this day, this day?" And he was like, "No, I don't have anything going on." I said, "All right, could you cover these gigs for me?" So I sent him all of the music and confirmed, with him that he could do the gigs. And then I called the MD for the gig that was going to be in Aruba. And I told him, hey, I just got an opportunity to go on the tour starting next week. So I called Alton and I sent him all of the music and made sure he was good for it and all of that. That MD, he wasn't the most accepting. He was a little let down, but I told him, I said, at that point, for me, I was like, the gig that we were doing in Aruba, that artist, I mean, we weren't really doing many gigs with him at that point. So I was like, this is kind of the opportunity of the lifetime right now, for me. So I did all that I needed to do as far as getting a fill-in prior to calling off of doing, that gig. And then I called the other MD for the gigs that I had, like in a couple weeks or whatever. And he was just like, yeah, do it. Like, do your gig. We're going to be good. You already called somebody? All right, cool. Tell them to call me and we're going to get them right. So that's a music director that really understands how things work. You know what I mean? So, super, super cool. Shout out to Young World. Super cool and inspiring and motivational. And he was just, checking up on me, making sure I had everything, making sure I had my passports. And, we had long conversations, because he's a veteran in the game. And, that was going to be potentially my first, like, tour overseas. So, he was just putting me on game to some things at that moment. But another teaching moment. If you have to call out of a gig or anything last minute, have somebody else in place. Send them all of the music, send them the dates, and just communicate. Communication is the biggest thing, and that's what I did. I communicated with the music directors. I communicated with my friend who was going to be covering the gigs, and then I ended up calling the tour manager for Nas. I called her back. And I was like, hey, y'all still need a drummer. Because it was probably about, all of that happened within probably 15 minutes. So I was quick with it. I was like, boom, 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 calling everybody. So, yeah, she was, I called her back and I said, hey, y'all still need a drummer. Like, is the opportunity still open? She was like, yeah, the opportunity is still open. And I said, all right, cool, I can do it. And she said, okay, cool. I'm going to send you a set list and just learn as much as you can. And that set list had about 40 songs on it. And I've only heard probably 2 songs up to that up to that point. So I'm like, geez, I got to learn all of this. And then she messaged me and she's like, we want you to do a rehearsal with the DJ, so he could see, see everything. So that was pretty much my audition, was going to be the rehearsal with the DJ. So that was in Phoenix. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, it was in Phoenix, and it was 2 days after she called me. So yes, if it was 2 days after she called me, then she called me on a Tuesday, and going out to audition with him would have been Thursday. So that night, I'm at choir rehearsal, and it's songs that we already know, songs that we've already done. So I told the MD, I said, you mind if I go back to my drum studio, which was like right down the street, and start working on, stuff for this tour that I'm probably gonna be on. He was like, this stuff is easy. Go ahead, do what you got to do, kind of thing. So I go back and I'm just listening to the songs. I'm gonna see if I could share my screen. This story is running a lot longer than I thought it would, but I'm trying to tell each detail because it was a very, very groundbreaking moment for me.
Dude, you are good. Take your time, my friend. This is awesome.
Let's see if I have these notes. I'm gonna show you the notes that I took. Set June 17th. All right, this is the latest piece of notes that I have. All right. Share screen. Let me see really quickly. Share screen. Here we go. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, I see it.
So this This is from June 2022. Which is a couple months after we did that first tour. Wait, no, a month after, because if that was made in June, yeah. But this was essentially how I took notes on each song. You can see I got a 4-bar intro, then we're in for Death Row East, 8 bars, no break. So I would literally have these notes right here on my iPad. I had an iPad mini. And if you look at any of Nas's stuff from 2022, like when I first got on, if the camera comes on me, I'm like this. Like, I'm playing, but I'm looking at the notes and I'm counting in my head. So I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because right here, I got everything laid out for me. On beats 3 and 4, it's a break, and then we're back in kind of thing. Because it was a lot, in hip hop, it's a lot of beat drops. So the thing that was different was they had custom beat drops as well from the show that they kind of just implemented here and there. So those were things I had to learn. But I had wrote a lot of this down. I had a little journal, so I wrote it down in my journal first. And that's what I went to the rehearsal with. But I didn't create this until like after that rehearsal. But yeah, so we are rehearsing. And there's each song that I would have had to sing was pretty much way out of my register. So now in my mind, I'm like, dang, these songs are out of my register. Now they're going to think I can't sing. But I mean, I was hitting the notes, whether I had to do falsetto or whatever like that. But yeah, so we did the rehearsal. I don't think I did a great job at the rehearsal. Like, I mean, I would have loved to be able to be more comfortable playing this stuff, but trying to learn all of that music in 2 days, if we were at a gig, I would say I would get by at the gig. It was a get by for me. That I feel like I did enough to, I mean, obviously I did enough to, DJ approved and I went on the tour. But after that rehearsal, we were finished and he was like, all right, man, nice to meet you or whatever like that. I'm like, cool. He didn't say, all right, good job. I see you out there or anything like that. So I think this is Thursday. My flight returned home. I don't know if it was that same day or the next day, but Friday comes around. I don't hear anything from the DJ or the tour manager. Cool. Saturday, in my head, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Because we leave soon and I haven't heard anything. So I reach out. I reach out to the tour manager and I'm like, hey, did the DJ say anything about it? Like, kind of like, has there been any updates kind of thing? And she sends me a message back and she's like, hey, we're still working on it. Don't cancel anything that you have just yet. We're still working on it. In my head, I'm like, I already canceled everything I got for the next month or 2 months. In my head, I'm saying that. But through text, I said, okay, cool. You know what I mean? But Sunday rolls around and I'm about to try to find it. I'm about to see if I could find the texts. Oh no, I deleted those a while ago. Okay, but yeah, Sunday rolls around, and I'm just like, all right, what's going on? Because now I'm just like, okay, I did this, did that, and I did, feel like I did a lot of work, to be able to get by, and I haven't heard anything yet. So I get to the complex in my old neighborhood. And I distinctly remember myself driving, about to be home, and I'm like, you know what? I'm at peace. Like, I know I did what I had to do. I prepared as much as I could and did, as well as I could out there. So, I was at peace with myself, even though I didn't hear anything back. And I was like, if God, if this is God's plan for me, then cool. I'm ready to take it on. But if not, then cool. You know what I mean? I just know. It was a proving ground for myself that I was able to say, hey, I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't cut corners or anything like that. Like, I did the best that I could, and whatever is the result of it is the result of it. I wasn't worried about the gigs that I already gave away or any of that. I was just like, hey, something's going to come in return, whether it's this gig or not. But yeah, Monday comes around, mind you, we leave on Wednesday. Monday comes around, and I'm like, all right, it's 2 days before, and I haven't heard anything. Like, what's actually going on? Sorry, my son was upstairs. I thought he was crying. But yeah, man. So I reached back out, and then a couple hours after I reach out, she messages me back and said, "Oh, they didn't send you the flight information." And when she said that, my heart was like, "All right, let's go. We good money." But so she ended up sending me the flight information and did the, I went out, did the first couple shows. I was still in the box because I was still learning, getting the groove of everything. By like the third or fourth show, instead of like this, I was like this. I was I was a lot more locked in. And then at the end of one of the shows that we did, it was probably like 5 or 6 shows in. At the end of the show, there's a song, and we normally just let the song play out or whatever, and I don't play on it. But the monitor engineer, he got in to talk about it. He was like, go off, Haze. So, as I wasn't playing, I started kind of like tinkering in a little bit. And then the DJ, I saw him like that. So I start grooving in. If anybody want to know what song it was, it's called Ultra Black by Nas. So, I'm playing. And then the hits are, so if you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, like this, the hits go like, boom, 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 boom. So they're like off. So I'm like, and then the DJ is in the talk about like, go off. And then I'm like, boom, and then I just started going crazy. And then when we were done, the crowd is like, and stuff like that. And that was the first show where I felt like, okay, this is my gig now. Because I, walking on stage, they're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, or whatever, like that. And then even Nas himself, because I don't think I saw him like after a show prior to that. But he was just sitting, he was still standing in the back because we was gonna do an encore because they're like encore or whatever like that. I mean, he was like, and, gave me a handshake. He was like, Haze, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, let's go, whatever like that. And then from then on, I started branching out a little bit more. And then I remember one time we were on a New York State of Mind tour, and the tour manager, he told me, he said, because there's a song called Hate Me Now that's real high energy, and that's the song, that was probably like the only song where I would kind of get loose on. But the tour manager told me, he said, what you doing, Hate Me Now? We want you to do that on every song. So that's when I really knew, all right, they want me to be me. I was so stuck in trying to be like the other drummer because that's what I was filling in for, that I was kind of limiting myself and my true gift. So once they saw that side of me, they was like, nah, that's what we want. Like, so and ever since then, it's been that. So sorry that took 40 minutes to explain, but but yeah, there we go.
Dude, that's awesome. Like, and because it's funny, so a lot of times on the channel what we'll talk about is like you get a gig and every artist, every MD is different, right? Like some of them are like, play the damn record, do not get it out of there, play it. Some of them are like, hey, there's a live arrangement for the record, it's a little bit different. And then some of them are like, do it, just go after it because we hired you for a reason. So it's so cool to hear that like Nas and his music director and everybody was like, dude, we love your feel. Because I mean, again, as a drummer, right, any drummer that watches your videos is like, dude, his feel's next to none. Like I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's like almost like creme brulee, it's just like smooth and just nice, and you're like, oh. So like, so to be able to hear that they're like, yeah, we want more of that. And I've watched a ton of your videos, so I know exactly what you're talking about with like just letting it go a little bit. Yeah. But there's nothing, I shouldn't say there's nothing, but there's not a lot of things that are better than like, okay, because again, on my YouTube, I joke all the time, but I'll do the cover And the first half of the song, I just play it like the record, just to be like, hey, I can play it like the record, like.
Right.
But then the second half of the song, I'm like, but I'm gonna do my thing now, and it's,
Yeah.
it's double bass and crazy fills, and I'm like, yes, but this is again my voice, and so you take that tour in 2022, and now we fast forward, playing with an orchestra, in a full suit, totally different environment. Like, what has that been like? Totally, different arrangements, different feel. You have a whole group of, dozens of musicians on stage. Like, what has that transition been like for you doing that?
Man, I would first off say that the orchestra shows are my favorite shows to play, because they just go hand in hand with what Nas's artistry is. He's more of a poet that says his lyrics inside of a beat. I don't really consider him just a typical rapper, but he's a storyteller. You know what I mean? So being able to have those arrangements that the orchestra are doing, they having intros where it's just them coming from real subtle, then they get loud, and then they go back down. Like, the whole show is just like, it's like a movie, to be honest. It's like a movie. But just as I'm able to like let go and go crazy, like you just said, mentioning back to that, where you're like, some artists are like, just play the record. Some MDs are like, just play the record kind of thing. That's how the DJ was. The DJ was like, just do what the record's doing, and not a whole lot outside of that, until I started to get more comfortable, and then that's when it was like, all right, cool, like, do your thing. But just it's the same way with the orchestra shows, man. It's organized madness, but it's like, so we're playing his first ever album. So most of the people who are coming to the shows, they know the album, and they want to hear the album like it is, even though it's not going to be like it is, because there's orchestra movements happening. But when we get into the song sounds like the record, but in orchestra form, and we're the live band. So I'm on drums, and I can't. It's just like, it's more so like, like when we first started doing them, I was using the hot rod sticks instead of regular drumsticks, and a lot of times where I'm keeping time on the hi-hats, like, stuff like that, I'm maybe not keeping time on the hi-hats like 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Maybe I'm just doing 3 hits like, but that 2 and the 4 is always going to be there. That backbeat is always going to be there. But I'll kind of play around on the hi-hats just a little bit, and I've made it into my own thing from what it originally was. Up until last month, I haven't seen one piece of sheet music for that show. So I had to learn it by listening at first. And then I finally asked, I was like, is there a drum set part for this show? And, I don't know what they're called in the orchestra, the person who has all of the music. I don't know what they're called. But it's like, yeah, there's a drum part. I'm like, can I see that? I've never saw it before. And he's like, sure. And, of course, I don't need it, because I know the show like the back of my hand at this point. But yeah, man, it's an amazing experience being able to play, and hearing all of the different things that are happening in the music. There's one song that has a French horn part that I can't live without. So I tell the monitor engineer, I'm like, every time we get to memory lane, boost those French horns in my ears, and the flutes. And then another song where the xylophone has a staple part, I'm like, turn that up on this song, turn the pianos up on this song. It's such an amazing feeling to know they're going to drive the bus at these parts of the show. They're going to drive the bus, and it's amazing. It's amazing to hear. And what makes it even better is that music is telling the story, lyrics are telling the story, and even in between the transitions, like when it's just the orchestra parts going on, he's talking over those parts sometimes, but it's all leading into where we're about to go. So it's almost like he's just taking you on a journey, pretty much. And it's amazing to see. And for those parts of the show, it's not super high energy, even though the crowd is like rowdy and stuff like that. It's not high energy on every song, but we do get to a song called "Represent" that has some hits, and it's like dun 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 dun. Those are the hits, and at the end of that song to take us out. Like being able to take that spot and every single time it's great. It feels good, and we can always tell that it's something different than the orchestras have done before. You have some members who are like, I don't like it, or it's too loud, so they can't use the monitors on the stage sometimes because it'll be too loud for the orchestra. And you got to deal with some orchestras that are a little more bratty than others, and they're like, oh, it's too loud. Can you play lower and stuff like that? I got a whole shield behind me, and I'm already playing super low. I'm using hot rods. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like this with hot rods most times. But yeah, man, it's a lot of different personalities that you got to deal with as you go from city to city. We're not using the same orchestra, so we're using the orchestra for whatever city this is, and a lot of different personalities. But overall, it's amazing and it's super fun. I love doing those shows. We'll do his album Illmatic with the orchestra, and then we'll do a second half of the show that's just a 20-minute straight high energy banger set where we going crazy, like a regular show. And then we got the bass player, we got the keyboard player, like having the band element there for me is so amazing. Shout out to Marquet, shout out to Lance who plays bass, Marcus who plays bass, Green Lantern who's the DJ. Like it's amazing. It's amazing.
Dude, that's so great. Like it's one of those things where it's like when you're a hired gun, you never really know where you're going to land, with whatever offer you get. Like, hey, I need you to fill in here or whatever it is. It's just so cool that you're like, this all started off as a phone call. Can you come fill in? Mm-hmm. And now you've got, brothers and sisters for life. You've got these incredible relationships and experiences. And, a question that I think is important back to the teaching moment is like, in your opinion, how important was it before getting that call to have had the experience, to have done the work, to have practiced, to have networked, all the things that we talk about? And, we give the advice to folks, but like as a living example, just how important do you think those things were to you getting that call to eventually now be with Nas and touring the world?
Yeah, man, those things are super, super important. Just to answer the question straight on, extremely important. And they help you in these moments because, when you're preparing and you have the experience of dealing with different personalities or dealing with different travel situations, different drum kits and all of these kind of things, now sometimes you're being thrown in the fire. Sometimes you just got to go and make it happen. We don't care what's going on before the crowd doesn't care what's going on before the show. They don't care if your tom head split or you don't have any sticks, or they don't care about that. They just want a good show. So just having that experience, I'm able to kind of fly into any situation and see what the situation may need and act on those needs before I'm acting on, oh, what do I want to do? Or I'm, just here like for, I love doing content, but for a while I had to tell myself, yeah, no content here. Like when we're in sound check, put your phone down so that you aren't trying to record content. You know what I mean? And just disciplining myself to stay focused on the task at hand. But like I said, being personable. People want to tour with somebody that they like being around. Like your talent will get you the gig, but everything else is going to keep you the gig. Your humility. Are you going to be on time? Are you good at taking instruction? Are you adaptable to different situations? All these kind of things. And just knowing that climates change as well. And being able to keep up with my health while I'm on the road. Experiences help with that and everything. So it's extremely, extremely important to get that experience and even do your studies beforehand, to just, see what's going on and practice, I'm not sure if you hear my son on the drums upstairs right now, but getting that working already. already. But yeah, man, practicing ahead of time and being prepared, it just leads you to going out and executing at the point.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, you think about anybody else in that situation, right? They get the call and you, like you said, 15 minutes, you're like, I'm reaching out to all these people, I'm communicating, I'm getting things organized, I'm, making sure that my integrity is intact, but I'm not missing this opportunity.
Right.
You get the call, you do the work, you learn the songs, you go do the audition, you're following up, and then there you are a week later in Europe playing the first show with one of the biggest hip hop and rap artists in the world, and you're like, and within a couple of days, you're like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm locked in. This is my gig. It takes a lot. And it's a funny story. You mentioned you don't know what drum set you're going to be on. The very first show I did overseas was in Germany. It was in this small little metal bar, and we were backlining. I brought my cymbals, and we're both Sabian boys, so shout out to Sabian. But I had this 1980s Pearl export kit with the drummer we were playing with. He had made one of the rack toms one of the floor toms, so he mounted it up on, other way around. One of the floor toms is a rack tom, so it was like 12, 14, 16, got a big old baffle, like one of the big shields, like a broken snare drum, but you're like, I'm going to make this the best damn show anybody's ever seen. It literally, like, you'll know this, I'm sure you've been through this, but like the kick drum had like duct tape on the inside and outside because it was broken, but they taped it back together. But again, the show was awesome. One of the best concerts we ever had. And it's just because it doesn't matter. Like, I always joke, I'm like, of all the shows or festivals or whatever I've played, I think I've played my own drums like 3 times. Most of the time I'm backlining something and you just got to make it happen, which makes me think about, and I wasn't even going to go down this path, but I would say one of the coolest parts about your content, over the years, is like, it doesn't matter what kit you're using. You'll see you like doing the tuning videos of like, I can make any kit sound good. Don't worry about it. And like, what do you think has been, and it could just be experience, it could be the fact that you've been on a lot of shitty kits, but what do you think has led to like you becoming so consistent at being able to get whatever drum set you're behind, whether it's good or bad, to sound as good as you do?
Man, I will first give a huge shout out to my drum mentor, Jeremy Wimbush. During COVID, he really took me under his wing with a few things. Tuning and mixing drums were 2 of the biggest things that I wanted to learn, and he took me way under his wing. But outside of what I learned from him, it was really understanding your drums. So going as deep into what drum heads are you using? What drum shell makes this drum? What kind of hardware is on the drum? Is there dust or debris between the drum head and the drum shell? Are your tension rods stripped or not? Are the receivers for your tension, like, all of these things matter, So that's the biggest thing for me. And doing studying on tones, and what drum woods can produce what tones, and what drum woods produce what tones better. What hoop gives me the direct sound that I want, Why do I not like this snare? Oh, back then I was just like, dang, this snare sucks. No, the snare doesn't suck. It just has a triple flange hoop on there that doesn't give a really good sound, to be honest. Or maybe, like, sometimes I've noticed, I did a show some years ago, and I couldn't get the snare to sound how I wanted. And I'm like, this is really making me mad because I want a specific sound and I can't get it. So I took all of the tension rods out, and they had mismatched tension rods. So some of the tension rods may have been this long, while the other tension rods were like this long, So all of that plays a part. The washers that are between your hoop and your tension rod, like, these are things that I didn't think about when I was younger. But as I've grown older, I've done studies of drum woods, of different hoops, bearing edges, that I think bearing edges is something that I'm still trying to get the grip on. I mean, I know which bearing edge I like the most or whatever, but I always like to know about the things that I don't care for as well. So the round over bearing edges and everything like that. Just trying to see so that when I'm making my investments, when I'm purchasing the drums that I want, or even your drumsticks, learn about the taper on the drumsticks. All of these kind of things. The what drumstick tip gives what sound. All of these things matter. And I would say those are the biggest things that have attributed to me being able to get behind a drum set and say, okay, this is what kind of tuning it needs. But and then also getting outside of myself and what I want. Because sometimes we're on a drum set and we want this high pitch, but the drum just literally can't produce that. Because maybe it's a tom that only has 5 lugs. It doesn't have 6 lugs like DW drums, or maybe the tom only has 4 lugs, or maybe the snare is only an 8 lug snare, but you want it to sound like a 10 lug snare drum. All of these things matter to being able to get consistency with tuning.
Yeah, and you're speaking my language because one, I'm a nerd about this stuff. I'm looking at shell, the shell configuration. I'm looking at the number of plies, the size of the plies, what type of heads, and I did a lot of experimenting. So when I was younger, it was like, hey, these are the brands I use. This is it. I won't use anything else. It was brand loyalty first, and then it was like leaving all that experimentation on the side, which when you're young, that's fine. But as I got older, I started to try different things, and all that experimentation, all the research, I'm going to call it nerding out, makes it so that when you get to a gig and they have a backline for you and maybe it's not what you're used to, it's like, okay, if I've got a Pearl Masters maple, I know what maple does. I know what the lugs are. I know how to get the tone I want. If I've got a Pearl Session Select, well, it's a different wood, the 60-degree rounded bearing edges on the kick, so maybe I got to use a different head combination, whatever it is. It's like, okay, and I'll tell you this, I've done on the live gigs, there was that export I told you about, but even worse, there was like this, God, I think it was like a Mapex Venus kit from like 1980 whatever, and it was just like torn apart. Like the tom would like swing out as you're playing, and the floor tom's falling down, but all the way up to we played the show in Leipzig with a beautiful DW Collector's kit. Everything in between, you're going to have problems no matter what. It doesn't really matter, but if you know your stuff, if you've done the work, if you've experimented, like you can be prepared for anything. And it's funny because a lot of people say, the gear doesn't make the player, right? Which I think is true to a degree, but knowing your gear makes you a better player because you don't always have the control of it. And not relying on it, but knowing how to get what you need out of it, I think that's the difference between a really great drummer and maybe not a professional drummer. We'll put it that way.
Now, I get exactly what you're saying, and I agree totally. About when people say the gear doesn't make the drummer or things like that. I never really understood what I don't know if that's an ego thing to where it's like, oh, if you're a good drummer, it shouldn't matter what you. No, it does matter. Like. What? You know what I mean? That's like me saying, oh, if you are a good race car driver, you don't need a great race car. What? Yes, you do. If you're going to complete a job, you want to have the best of the best so that you can complete the job at the magnitude that you need to. We can do what we can do with drum sets where, like you said, where the tom may be leaning or things like that. But a lot of times that'll end up taking a toll on our bodies because now, let's say you're playing with a seat that's broken, it's super low, or you're playing with a snare stand that's leaning or something like that. You can't fix it. And although you can make it sound good, we may be putting more stress on our back or more stress on our wrist trying to do the best that we can. And it's like, no, if we want longevity in this, we need to take care of ourselves. And the way to do that is to be on gear that's going to last. If we're playing on stage, we don't want our cymbals falling off. We don't want our cymbals cracking. We don't want our heads ripping as soon as we start, or our sticks breaking. So it's just like, no, we do need great gear as well. That never really made sense to me because it's like, why do you want to be so amazed? It's like a great wide receiver with a bad quarterback. you can't do much because the quarterback has to be able to get the ball to you. You know, it's yeah, man. So I'm in the same boat to where it can matter, but doesn't really matter that much. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. So, like, just a quick side story. My snare basket I have right now, can tell you I need a new one. But you know, hitting and it's starting to kind of tilt on its own, even though it's tight. You know, because again, it's I've had it for God knows how many years. And the other day, I'm 90% sure I broke my fingertip because you know did a rim shot, got my finger in between the stick and the rim because it was tilting. You know, as I'm doing my rim shots. And you know I haven't played since because it's like just touching it is. But to your point, like sometimes it's like those little things. Todd Suckerman, he says it's a game of millimeters, and but it is like if you can't rely on the stuff you've got or know how to fix it, then you know you're putting yourself in potentially in harm. You know, it took me, gosh, until I became an adult to really focus on even my grip so I didn't hurt my wrists and my ankles. And, you know, there's so many things that we need to focus on. But I am curious, so kind of a pivot. You know, we've talked a lot about playing with Nas. We've talked about your kind of history playing live and being that drummer, but you have your own brand as well. You know, you've got Haze Amaze LLC. You're out there building content, building your brand. So like what inspired you to build the platform? But then also kind of juggle the mentorship with the performing and kind of going back and forth. Because like you said, there's a discipline that goes into knowing when and when not to make content. But then, you know, just so basically, how do you kind of juggle those two sides of your brand?
man, I will first start off by saying I actually do not like Haze Amaze LLC anymore. I made my business in 2021, and I didn't really know what I was doing. You know, I was talking to a couple people, and they were like, "Oh yeah, if you have a business, you can leverage this, leverage that, which you can. It's all true stuff." But I don't think I was ready to create a business. I mean, I would name it something different if I had the opportunity. And I'm actually supposed to be looking into being able to change the name potentially, but I haven't yet because it hasn't been on the forefront of my mind. But being able to juggle the difference between like my brand things and live shows and everything like that. Well, sorry, let me back up. What inspired me to to go the have your own brand route? Mainly Aaron Spears. He's a drummer from my hometown. One of my favorite drummers ever. But just seeing that he, of course, Usher was the gig that really, really did it for him. But then, after Usher, being able to do Ariana Grande and all of the other gigs that he did, and even while doing Usher, like doing American Idol and Shaka Khan, you know what I mean? He has a record where he played drums on her songs. I'm like, what? That's amazing. But also seeing him in his face on the K Custom Zildjian pack, on a lot of DW stuff when he was with DW, rank, always at the forefront of the companies that he's with, basically. And then he's doing clinic tours overseas and in the States. You know what I mean? So I'm like, man, like there's a lot more to this than just playing live shows. And that's what I want to do. He was my biggest inspiration behind creating my brand. Well, he didn't create my brand, but he was my biggest inspiration behind me, really going the branding route as well. And then COVID really, really helped me to push my brand because it was like, okay, now I see how it feels to not make money that I made before. It was like, starting my career in 2018, and doing shows, having fun. 2019, doing shows, having fun. The end of 2019, early 2020, it's like, okay, something might be happening. There's something called coronavirus. You're hearing about it, but you don't care because you still see those tour dates on your schedule. And then the next day, none of that is there. Next day after that, the world is shut down. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not making any money at that point. And I'm like, okay, this could happen just at a regular time, you know? Artists can decide they don't want me to be their drummer anymore. What am I going to do, you know? So having my own brand and building my own brand was really important to me because, you know, I sat down with myself and I said, here are some of the things I want to achieve. Here's how I'm going to achieve that. And me pushing my brand to the forefront was really, 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 you know, a big way of me being able to do things like get calls to do clinics. Or when I do a clinic, people are actually going to come, you know, speaking engagements and all of these kind of things. You know, and then as I started really getting more into branding, Questlove had become kind of like, okay, Aaron Spears, drum side of branding. He was, you know, he was everywhere. He was on the face of everything. And then you get into this world where you got the Questloves, where everybody in the world knows Questlove, even though they may not know his name. So I can go up to a random person and probably say, hey, you know who Questlove is? Questlove, who's that? And then I say, the drummer with the afro. As soon as you say with the afro, they automatically know who it is. But that's the side of branding that, okay, you become worldwide now, you know? And then I ended up seeing, well, I don't know if I saw him, but I know his voice, you know, he was narrating for a Lipton commercial during the Super Bowl. And I'm like, dude, this is Questlove. Like, everybody knows him as a drummer, but he's a narrator, he's an author. You know what I mean? Like, his brand is really widespread. So yeah, that's it. Started with Aaron, and then I started picking up different influences between Questlove, Travis Barker, just doing the thing. So just yeah, that's how it started.
Dude, like, it's so funny. So my first so I stopped, not to say the same story over and over again, but I played professionally until 2012, and then put the six down, had my daughter, and focused on getting kind of a corporate gig, working my life, building a family. And then January 2020, I'm like, you know what? I'm coming back. I'm going to do this again, and the world stops. And I'm like, son of a bitch. But, so I start the YouTube channel, and the funny thing is I came up with Arizona Drummer for a couple reasons. The first one was, I grew up in bands, like metal bands, and like having a logo was key, right, to people recognizing your brand and being like, oh, I like that band. And like Periphery, they have the P with the 3 dots, and Slayer, it's their name, but like, again, you see it as soon as you say the name. So I'm like, okay, I like Arizona Drummer, and then having like AZD as a logo. So I'm like, okay. Then I met Brian Fraser Moore at NAMM. He's got BFM World, he's got his own consulting, and he's got his signature gear and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I want that, because Brian is known as Brian, not necessarily as the drummer of Pink or this or that. And I'm like, okay. And then it started to become, well, wait a minute. People are searching for Arizona drummers, and I'm the first thing that pops up. So I'm getting gigs now because of this name, and so I'm like, okay, this is cool. And it kind of takes I'm a big fan of, I should say early on, of like keeping the personal and the professional separate. I've since found out, and that's why I think the channel is doing better, that no, you got to show a little bit of your personality too. So it's going better now. But I'm kind of in the same boat as you in the sense of I haven't formed an LLC yet. I'm kind of doing everything under my name still. But I'm like, do I want it to be Arizona Drummer LLC? Like, I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I want to be that forever. And so it's like, that's the brand now. That's who I'm, like, you see my face, that's I'm associated with, but I'm like, is that what I want, or do I want it to be something different? And it's crazy because when you create a brand, and you know this better than just about anybody, but Randy Ross was out at a festival in Prince Edward Island, Canada, and some kid came up to him and was like, hey, you were in Arizona Drummer's video. And like, he doesn't know my name, he doesn't know about me, but he knows the brand. Like, to your point, like, I know that guy. He's that dude with the tattoos and the backwards hat. That's him. And it's funny how something I learned as I got older is just how important it is to diversify. Like, playing live is good, but like, I want to do these interviews. I want to do the factory tours. I want to work with these companies. I want to do clinics. There's all these things I want to do because I love the instrument. So if I can explore every facet of it, I will. But also, I'm trying to make a business. I'm trying to do this for a living, and gigs are the most fun way to do it, but they're not the most consistent way to do it. So you've got to find other ways to do it. And what I love about what you've kind of started to do, especially most recently, is like these lessons, you know, where you're going on, you're like, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you to do something technical. Let me show you to do something business-minded. Let me show you how to get over, you know, potential, like things that drummers mess up on. Like, it's a really cool series that you're doing on the channel, because you're like, let me show you some of the things I've learned. And I'm curious, you know, obviously the business is important. You got your family, which I do want to talk about before we hang out. I know we're a few minutes over. But with the business or with the mentorship in mind, what kind of made you say, you know what, I want to start to branch out into doing like these lesson packs and kind of putting this stuff out and really helping up and coming drummers learn some of these crucial skills?
Yeah, I've always been a man for the people. But man, I've always just loved helping, you know, and I find myself in my daily life, you know, answering questions from people that reach out. Maybe they need advice, or maybe they're going through something, you know, and just need an ear, or, you know, they need help with something. And I found myself doing that. And I've always struggled with the idea of doing YouTube lessons, to be honest. Because I'm like, okay, I'm about to put a video out and not get paid to share, you know what I mean? But I got over that over the past two, maybe 3 years. In my mind, I've gotten over that. And I've started to understand that if you try and harbor all of your knowledge and don't share any of it, you're not going to leave room for yourself to grow any more than where you currently are. So, you know, it's just always been a thing of, oh, if I'm gonna be sharing information, I want to get paid. I want to get paid. But it's just like, come on, like, am I really gonna be like that? You know what I mean? And what it's done is it's helped me build more of a community and more of a following as well. Because people love watching their favorite drummers, but I feel like people love being able to interact with their favorite drummers as well. So doing the lessons the way that I do them, my goal is to have it feel like you're sitting at a drum set literally right across from me, and we're having a one-on-one lesson. That's the goal. But going back to something that you said earlier about, you know, you were splitting business and personal, I've also learned that a long time ago, people like to they like to be able to connect with you. They want to see that you're human, you know, and that's something I had to understand. Like, oh, if I do a video and I mess up in the video, I'm not going to always cut it out, because people need to be able to connect. They need to. I've learned, and I've talked to people who are intimidated by how good someone else is. So it's just like, if you're always perfect and you're always perfect, that may not people may not want to see that for too much longer, but they like stories as well. We all like stories. You know, when we watch movies, we like watching documentaries. You know, we like listening to music where someone is telling their story. So, you know, it's just like when you're able to be personal with people, or personable with people, and allow them to see the side of you rather than just this amazing drummer, is just like, oh wow, like I can connect with him even more now. You know, and we all love connections, you know what I mean? So that's a huge thing. But man, lessons from the crib, it was, you know, something that I thought about, and I was just like, wow, I want to start giving drum lessons, because I haven't opened up like one-on-one lessons, because to be honest, I I don't know. I just don't be feeling like I don't be feeling like doing the lessons sometimes, you know. But I always notice when I am doing one-on-one lessons, after like the first 5 minutes, I'm like, yeah, like, and I want to keep going, and then it's time for the lesson to be over. You know, like I like doing lessons, but I think mentally for me, before the lesson, I'm just like, dang, I gotta do a drum lesson. But but when it comes to doing the lessons from the crib, it's fun and it's a lot easier, because now I'm down here, and you know, I partnered up with my good friend Will, who's Lotus Dog 9, is what he likes to go by, who films and edits the lessons as well. So he's excited, and his excitement really pushes me to do the stuff. You know what I mean? Like when I first came up with it, I had this long list of like, oh, topics, because I was hyped. And then I did my first lesson, and I'm like, this isn't as easy as I thought it would be, because I was never the greatest teacher, to be honest. And I've always struggled with like articulation. Like when I'm saying things, I've always struggled with getting my point across to various different audiences. And I've gotten a lot better with that over time. But to be able to reach different people, people from different countries, and things like that, and being able to help them and teach them different things, it's what I want to do. That I can't do that without doing something on YouTube. I can't travel everywhere right now and be there at once and say, okay, this is what you want to do. But this is an outlet for me to help in the way that I want to do, So yeah, man, it really starts from my love of helping people to grow and helping people to what am I trying to say? To achieve their goals. So if you want to be a professional drummer, I'm always an advocate for the arts. Whether you're a child, whether you're a grown adult, like I'm always like, if you want to do something in the arts, do it. Be creative. Don't let nobody tell you that you're weird or that you don't belong because you want to be creative. No, be creative and do your thing. So, me always wanting to help. That's what really drove Lessons from the Crib. And, I got my drum set and everything hooked up down in my basement. So it just rolled off my tongue to where I said, Lessons from the Crib. And I said, that sounds good. And I just stuck with it. It wasn't a big whole, what's going to be the name of it? It wasn't like that. It was just something I thought about. And yeah, man, it's been an amazing series so far. And I think the biggest thing for me is when I used to think about YouTube, I used to always think about how many views I can get versus what impact I'm going to make. But with this series and things and, other videos that I'm putting out now, it's just like, okay, I want to make an impact. That's at the forefront in my mind versus I want to get 200,000 views. I want to get, I want to get this. I want to get that. It's like, no, I'm going to make a lesson that has substance because I know it'll last. I know people are going to be able to see it years later. And the things that I'm teaching are still going to be applicable and help, So it's definitely, wanting to make an impact and my love for helping others that like drove me to starting this series.
That's awesome. And Lessons from the Crib is a great name. So like, kudos on that. Yeah, it was funny. The same thing happened with this podcast. I did the first one with Anthony Gazelle, and I was like editing the video or whatever and listening back to the interview, making it look and sound nice. And I said in the interview the words behind the kit, and I was just like, ooh, I like that. And that was it. That was it. I didn't think about it. Just said, okay, I like it, and that's been the thing now. And that's, and then the logo came out, and then everything, because it's like, this is fun. I like this. But I've already held you over a little bit, so I have 2 more questions.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah.
Okay. I know we're a little bit on a time difference too, so I don't want to hold you. But, anybody who knows you knows that you take your family very seriously. Like, you're a great dad. You put your kids first, right? You put your wife first. You talked about her earlier. We gave her a shout out. So you're juggling a lot, though. You got the touring, you got your creative outlets with whether it's Lessons from the Crib or anything else you're doing, but you're also a family man. You got your kids, you got your wife. So how do you, one, stay grounded, kind of keep yourself from getting overwhelmed, but also like, how do you stay balanced? Because there's, you get taken away often, but how do you stay connected and balanced? That was always the thing that I struggled with, which is why I put the sticks down. And now my daughter's 13; she doesn't want me here anyway, so I can go do whatever I gotta do.
Yeah, man. For me, when I decided that I wanted to get married, I already had the understanding that my wife comes before anything. Spiritually, that's what, as a Christian, that's what that's what I believe is wife first, over everything once you get married. So I've already had that in my mind before I decided to get married. But after getting married, of course, now it's time to put the actions to the thoughts and everything like that. And then even with having children as well, it can be difficult to juggle or to balance between life, family, and work. But for me, I'm a very planny guy. Like I plan. You know what I mean? I've definitely taken myself out sometimes and just taken a moment to myself and said, okay, here's what I want to do. I have 24 hours in a day. Here's what I want to do today. And it's a lot of discipline that comes from it, because when we start doing stuff sometimes, as creatives, we start something and we don't want to stop until it's finished. So I would find myself I would find myself starting to edit drums. Maybe let's take editing, editing drums or a video. I found myself starting around 6 o'clock after I've already filmed, starting at 1 o'clock, and I'm down here and I start editing, and then I start getting these ideas like, oh, this would be cool to add or whatever like that. And then I look up and I started at 1 o'clock in the day, and now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I just been down here, and things like that. And my wife, she, like, before we got married, she's very understanding. She knows what I do for a living, and she's very accepting of that. She has family members who were in the army or who are musicians as well, so she understands that, okay, you can be gone for sometimes you could be gone for a month, 2 months, or maybe longer. So there was already a mutual understanding there, and she was very accepting of my career. But I do distinctly remember one time she told me that she felt like when I'm home, I wasn't here, and it really sat me down and was like, okay, when I'm home, my I don't need to just be physically here. I need to mentally and emotionally be here as well. Because I would find myself coming maybe off of a tour or off of a couple travel dates, and then I'm home, and now I'm listening to music or thinking about the next show that I got to do, or talking about the next show that I got to do. And it's like, you just came from doing shows. Like, calm down a little bit. Let's have family time. So yeah, when she told me that, I felt that in my heart, and I was like, it's true, because I felt the same way too after I thought about it. So what I did is I had to make it intentional for myself to really say, okay, like, I have to spend time with my family if I want to keep my family. I can't ever allow them to feel like I don't care, or to feel like I'm separated. Like, I've had to learn my wife's love languages, and that's something that she helped me to learn. You know what I mean? Like, I never cared about love languages, but one time she had asked me, what's my love languages? I said, I don't know. I didn't even know about that before. But understanding each other's love language, and one of the biggest things was quality time. For me, quality time could be, oh, I'm down here playing video games or something like that, and she's doing something in the living room, or I'm doing something and she's doing something, or we're in the same space, but maybe we're not together, if that makes sense. And that was cool for me, just in my mind. But when I understood that, no, she, it's more so physical touch and just being around each other that she, really cares for. And it's just like, okay, I'm going to do those things. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, well, how I do it is how I do it. It's like, no, satisfy your wife, because this is who you're coming back home to. You're coming back home to family. Family is always going to be here. Your job, your gigs, at some point they're going to dwindle away or dwindle down. So if you're not taking care of home, then you'll find yourself in a serious problem. So I've heard. Thankfully I haven't been there just yet. And hopefully I don't, hopefully that time doesn't come as well. But man, spiritually growing has helped me a lot with that balance as well. And really understanding, how important family is to me. I'm a family man. I love family. So, being a dad is just like, I want my kids to be able to say, oh yeah, he's here. He's present. I don't want it to be like, oh, I barely see him, or things like that. And even emotionally is the biggest. I think that's the biggest thing, because even even if you are here physically, you can still feel separated emotionally, and I don't want them, to ever feel like that. So, man, yeah, I just the way that I balance, man. I've even had to put myself on a schedule before. I use ChatGPT. I said, make a schedule for a dad who has 3 kids, a wife, and is a traveling musician and content creator. Like, I was real specific, and the schedule that they gave me was amazing. I did it for about 2 to 3 weeks before I kind of fell off of the schedule. But I mean, the schedule worked. It had me getting up very early in the morning, spending time with my family before, my wife, she's a school counselor. So, spending time with them before they're off to school, and she's off to work. And then the first hour or two of my day is like kind of like lesson planning in a sense. It's stated it as deep work, which means, okay, I'm here and I'm typing out, okay, if I'm doing lessons next week, let me have these lessons already charted out. So when I get to doing the lessons, I'm not sitting here like, what am I going to teach? Or what am I going to say next? It's just like, here's the lesson, and it was overall, it was just a great schedule to be on, and I think it helped me a lot, to kind of refocus myself, and it got me to understanding how important time is. So if I tell myself I'm going to work on something from 11 to 12 p.m. I mean, not 11 to 12 p.m. From 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., I'm going to do that from 11 to 12. And after that, I'm not going to do it anymore until the next day. And that helped me to be like, okay, I can get a lot of work done, and I got to be patient with myself. I could do a lot of work today. I could do a lot of work tomorrow and the day after that. But I could do a lot of work within this time frame. And then when my family gets home, be with your family, and unfortunately for us as creatives, sometimes we get stuck in these places. So sometimes I get stuck down here, on YouTube or playing video games and things like that. But you ask, what helps with the balance as well. Playing video games helps a lot. It helps to keep me sane and keep me, at peace, because I feel like if you don't have an outlet to do what it is you want to do, you're going to get overwhelmed. I would get overwhelmed with wanting to do a whole bunch of stuff, typing and doing lessons or doing content and things like that, and dealing with family as well. My son is in daycare now, so he's picking up new things from the kids in daycare. It's like, where did that come from? So now, it's like I got to be able to deal with these new things that he's learning, or these different influences that are going on in my daughter's lives, you know what I mean, in middle school. And then, oh, my wife is home. Okay, let me stop what I'm doing. Hey, babe, how's your day? You know what I mean? Like, conversation, all these kind of things. And marriage counseling definitely helped. Like, before we got married, it really helped me to see a scope of, okay, these are the things that you can do to help your marriage, to make your wife feel like you're there. You never want her to feel like you're not. You know what I mean? So a bunch of different things that I've picked up over my 3 years of being married. Well, 2, about to be 3 years of being married. That I'm learning. I'm learning each and every day. I don't feel like I have all of the answers, but I have some of the answers, and they've been working very well so far. So yeah, man. And then same thing when I'm out on the road. When I'm out on the road, we're out here to work. It's not play. I mean, you have a lot of fun. Let me not say it's not play. You have a lot of fun, but when it's time to work, it's time to work, kind of thing.
I identify with everything you said so much. Like, I was married for 10 years and then got divorced, almost 4 years ago, and met my wife, who I'm married to now, and we started dating, and similar to how your wife was with the Nas gig, where she's like, call them back and take the gig. My wife's the same thing. She's like, go do this thing. You have these opportunities. Oh my gosh, like, go. But same kind of thing of like, hey, all you're thinking about and talking about is drums or music or the YouTube or the gig. And I'm like, you're right. I gotta be, and so my daughter she goes back and forth between her mom's and my house. So when she's here, I'm like, this is it. Like, your school, us spending time together. And I learned a lot, similar to what you shared. And I went to therapy for a long time. And, coming off of a divorce is never easy. But, the relationship I have with her now, oh my
Yeah.
God, like night and day. Because again, you're
Sure.
mentally, you're emotionally, you're physically just present.
Yeah.
And my wife has helped me a lot with that. I'm like,
Nice.
and like, yeah, and like just channeling where you're going to focus. Cause like it does take a lot. And to your point, having an outlet, not just from family, not just from work, not just from drums, but like all of it. So like you said, video games. For me, it's either video games or going to the gym. Like those are the two things I'll do that have nothing to do with those other things that are just for me. And sometimes it's not though. Sometimes I'll take video games and like, hey, let's all play together, But it's one of those things where you have to have something though that's outside of all of it, that's just yours, to kind of keep things at bay. And like drums are typically that thing for all of us, but it's still a job. So it's like, okay, what's outside of that? What can you do to kind of keep yourself sane, as you said it? But all right, I have one more question for you. And then I promise I won't hold you hostage. But
Oh, it's okay.
so looking ahead to the future, we got Lessons from the Crib, you're touring with Nas, what are some other, either including those things, but what are some exciting projects or goals that you have coming up that you can share with us so that we can make sure that the audience is staying or tuned in to what you've got going on? And I will make sure all your socials, your YouTube, everything is linked into this video when it goes up. But what are some things that you can share with the audience just that you've got coming up and that you're excited about?
Man, I'm looking to move from here in Virginia to Las Vegas. Hopefully within the next year. I'm super excited about that. To pursue more music and more opportunities. I want to start doing things in film as well. I feel like I need to change up my scenery. Moving to Vegas, I want to move to California, but California is expensive. So Vegas isn't too far. So I'm hoping that moving to Vegas, you know, um, open up more doors and things of that nature for me. There's something else that I am working on that I'm still fighting with myself if I want to say anything about it or not. To be honest, uh, but yeah, I'm looking to do more mentorship. Pretty soon I'll open up mentorship for. I want it geared toward younger drummers, but toward drummers. Um, and I want to open up that mentorship soon. So I've been working on some things as of recent to kind of make that a thing as well. So look out for the mentorship if you're looking to of course get better on drums and things like that, but learn some things about life, and you just need somebody who can help walk with you through different through different things. I'll be opening that up soon. I just started a ministry at my church called The Bridge, which is essentially a support group for it's focused to the ages of 18 to 35. But what we want to do is we want to make it a group to where if anybody's going through challenges in life, they'll have support through those challenges. Unfortunately, we witness musicians take their lives, or I've witnessed a couple friends who's taken their lives or damaged themselves pretty bad because of life's challenges. And all I can think about, because I can't talk to them anymore, all I can think about is, wow, maybe they didn't have the support that they may have needed to make it through pushing on to that next day and the day after that and the day after that. So I'm just like, in any way that I could be of help to that, whether somebody's going through financial problems, relationship issues, family issues, or like self issues, maybe low self-esteem, things like that. My ministry, The Bridge. Well, I'm saying my ministry. It's not mine, but of course, it's at my church and everything. But The Bridge will be here to be able to help, and we'll reach out to resources, for things like therapy, or if you're not, if you need food or you need clothes or these kind of things, we have the resources for that as well. So that's been probably the biggest thing for me lately is starting up that ministry and really, really hoping to make an impact in our community and eventually across the world, through this ministry, as well. But yeah, man. So those are some of the things that I'm looking forward to doing, and some of the things that have already started. And I have something else in the works, that you know that I'm working on, that I'm super, super, super. It's probably my biggest goal for the year. Actually, it's probably my biggest goal for the year to to hash this thing out and get it to be what I want it to be. And I'm really looking forward to it, and being able to make an impact in a way that I've never made before. So yeah, man, that's yeah.
So I'll tell you what, we'll leave them wanting more. We won't reveal the secret. We'll do a part 2 though once you've announced whatever it is,
Yeah,
and
yes,
then we'll blast it out, right?
Okay.
But I will say this: I saw the bridge. I saw some of that stuff that you've been
Oh yeah.
posting with the church, and I didn't know all the details. So hearing that, I was getting a little teary eyed because I'm
Oh
like,
man, yeah.
what an incredible and noble pursuit to just be like, hey, and I won't go too far into this because again I've already held you over 30 minutes, but I struggled with mental health for a long time and got to that low point of, hey, maybe the world's better off without me type scenario. And I think we've all kind of been there, but and if it wasn't for my support system and therapy and all the different things in my corner, I don't know where I would be. And so to think that there are folks out there with similar feelings and similar challenges, and sometimes it's just that thing, right? Like there's a number of things, but then you lose your job, or you forgot the milk that you just bought at the store, and you get home, and sometimes but really it can be that small of a thing that just, if they don't have anyone there or they don't have the support, it's that thing. And so I'm just going to say this, for whoever takes advantage of this, thank you for standing this up. I mean, it's incredible, and what a great cause, So, but I won't hold you too much longer, like I promised. What I will say though is this has been awesome. Like I said before we even hit record. Yeah, I have some questions, but it's a conversation between two friends talking about something we love, but also just talking about our lives and how we navigate this crazy music industry we're in, but also trying to build a better community for us drummers to learn, grow, and build from. And you were one of, I've been very fortunate. I had a list of drummers I reached out to that were like my first people that came to my mind of like, these are guys and girls that I want on the channel. And this first season that just the first names that popped in my head. I've been very fortunate that so far all of them, you were on that list, but so far everybody has said yes to come help me do this, right? And so I just want to say thank you. It took between, the different stuff going on in our lives, took us a couple tries to get this done, but seriously, dude, this has been great. And so I just have to say thank you for making the time, for going over, for telling your story. But not only do I think the listeners and the watchers will take a lot from this, but I personally have gotten to know you better, and I had a professional respect for you before today, and now I have a personal respect for you as well as just a great man. Yeah, just a great man, a great friend. And so again, just thank you for making the time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you for having me on here. And like I said even before, I'm just grateful to be able to share. You know what I mean? Grateful to be able to inspire and motivate whoever's going to see this to continue going. Things may. I was doing something today, and I was thinking about dark seasons in life. It's almost like when I compare it to. I'm trying to say this without getting too long winded. I compare it to when you're driving. Let's say you have a destination. You want to get to Florida. Or for in my case, I know this even better. You're trying to get to New York, and you're driving, and things seem well. It's the light. It's the light of day. Life is good, and then you go in the tunnel, and the tunnel is dark. And at the end of the tunnel, at the end of that tunnel, is your destination in the light. You know what I mean? So, I just wanted to share that with whoever may be seeing this. You may be in a dark moment in your life at this very moment, but understand that there's light at the end of this tunnel that you're currently in. So just keep driving. Keep driving, keep pushing, and keep living, and live towards your purpose. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about, right? Like having the hope, the perseverance, the strength, the courage, and if you don't have those things, that's okay too. Just look at your passenger, whoever that is, right, and say, "Hey, help me get through this tunnel."
Yes.
And
Yes. Uh-huh.
it doesn't matter who it is, right? Just you don't have to do any of that stuff alone.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
Yes,
On that note, I'll just say this: thank you. This has been one of my favorite conversations that we've had, just because sometimes it's work, right? You get on here and you're asking the questions. It's strictly drums, and we're
right.
doing the damn thing. But like, I just God, what a great conversation. So just thank you for giving it to me, and for just being an awesome dude. So I appreciate you.
Man, God bless you. God bless you, Kyle. I appreciate you. Again, I can't say it enough. I appreciate you for having me on here to be able to share, from experience and from things that I've learned over the years. And if we can impact somebody with this,
Yeah.
I feel like we've done our job. And before I go, I just want to say, if you're watching this right now, do a good deed for somebody today. Open the door, carry a bag, help an old person across the street. Do something good for somebody. Give them a compliment. Hug somebody, love somebody today, and be blessed.
I second that. Spread that positivity, because the world definitely needs more of it right now. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, thank you, my friend. And I'll let you know when this goes live. But in the short term, I wish you nothing but the best, and that your family is happy, healthy, full bellies, big smiles, and everybody's in a good spot. So thank you again, and I'll talk to you, I'm sure, very soon.
Yes, sir. You enjoy the rest of your day, and I pray the same for you. That your family continues to stay blessed, that you all continue to stay connected, and
Yes.
continue to love on each other, man. It's important.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon.
All right. See ya.
Peace.